Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We're listening to Elvin this morning to start our day. The song just ended, so it's about to start again. We have lots to go over today. It's going to be really good, really constructive, I think. Links in the chat for Elvin's music. She can be found on Spotify and YouTube. Happy birthday to Indiana Jones, who turned 14 years old yesterday. Happy birthday to Indiana Jones, my cat, my companion, my best friend for the last 10 plus years. She really is the best. She really is the best. She's better than all of us. We do not deserve to live in a world where Indiana Jones also lives. So shout out to her. I have a TikTok to go over. 4 past Britney videos. And Dave Philip DeFranco talking about Cory Booker today. We're going to, bring it all together by the end of this to talk about political theater, political bubbles, and your place in and outside of them. Based off a comment that I got yesterday on my live show, I just want to say absolute no shade to this person. They really express themselves in a passionate and clear way. They are so valid for the way that they feel. The only issue I have with the comment and the conversation we tried to have in the comment section was that their implication is incorrect, that I've changed my opinions versus just changed how I talk. And I want to talk about that. I think, hold on, let me pause Elvin's music because it's so beautiful. It's going to distract me. So I got a comment yesterday. And again, this person's so lovely. I'm so glad they expressed themselves, but I think they're wrong in a way that they might not understand is so pivotal to what I'm trying to communicate. And this is an opportunity for me to learn to express myself better. And I want to explain to you and use this as an example of what I mean by political bubbles. Like I said, this whole stream is going to be an explanation of that. So let's jump in and get started. The first comment I got was, Brittany, be for real. So first and foremost, when people say be real, like be for real, they're saying you've been lying, or you're not holding yourself accountable, or you haven't apologized for this. They're starting off the sentence with, I'm calling you out, which is fine. Okay, so I'm like, oh, Brittany, be for real. Okay. Your disclaimer at the beginning of this clip is just not true to how you portrayed yourself up until late last year. You used to undermine any kind of personal political beliefs and activism as being pointless efforts of twos and acted like it was stupid and pointless to care about politics at all. You changed up once Trump was elected, but you definitely implied to your audience that being politically active was a waste of time for like the last 4 years. So valid for them to feel this way. And I expressed to them that I feel like you're not understanding me. And they said, but I am. Your audience understood you. We were mad at you. Okay, I never felt like my audience was that mad at me, first of all. They said like a majority of your audience noticed this shift. I didn't feel that. But I was trying to explain to them that I do still feel that way. I'm just masking more. Now, recently diagnosed autistic has made me realize that the way I talk as myself is confusing to people. So I am learning to mask, especially when talking about very personal subjects to people, while still being authentic Brittany. And I'm not ashamed to say that because look, it is a threat to my livelihood, my bank account, my place in the universe. People hate me just because of the way that I talk, which seems to be an actual pretty universal experience of autistic women who are dominant personalities. So I feel I think it's fair because they don't know that that's what's happening because they're putting onto me a thought that I'm not experiencing. So I am getting better talking about these things. You guys know when Harris was running against Trump, I full on said, okay, girls, we're jumping into the political bubble. Let's play the game. I full on said that. So this person's implication of the comment section or in the comment section is like, you changed up. I didn't change up. I am so consistent, and I'm going to show you today how I am one of the most consistent thinkers and philosophy channels on this platform. I didn't change up. Change up means I'm different than I was. I told my audience we are jumping into the political bubble. Let's go. Because I do think it's all bubbles. I do think it's all games, and I do think it is all perspective. Now, I explained to them that I was masking and they didn't really get it. Then somebody else in the comment section said, like, oh, I can't believe there's so many haters in the chat. I hope it means you're growing. And I said, here's to growth. And then this person found that comment and said, I hope you're not saying that I'm a hater. You're not a hater. You're just criticizing me. But I'm going to explain to you why your criticism is only from your perspective and it's not what's actually happening. But you're valid. You're not a hate comment. I'm not going to block you. You just have an issue with me because you don't understand what I'm doing. But that's okay. That's fair. Let me explain it to you. So this person went on to say, just to like summarize their thoughts, and they said, like basically to clarify, I'm saying that the message you were putting out in 2020 was that politics was a waste of time and fives have a better use of their time. i.e., don't waste your time voting to improve your community, move to a community that fits you. Don't vote hoping to change things, just accept that the world isn't ready for XYZ, gay people, trans people, women, and go find your tribe that accepts you right now, which obviously I found super frustrating because the only way things change is through the collective action. So if you guys are my audience, I feel like if you stood like through the work, I don't know if this person is saying that they followed me and then unfollowed me in 2020. So they didn't see the last 4 years of growth. They didn't see the last 4 years of communication. But for those that stuck around and watched the last 4 years of my growth, you'll know that I've been very consistent about the point of my work. I still stand by all of these sort of perceptions, right? That I do think politics is a waste of time unless you're playing the political game. I do think fives have a different relationship to why they engage in politics, if at all. I do think it could be a waste of time to vote, but I recommend voting. I've always voted, right? I always say vote locally. It might be a waste of time to vote for the candidates, maybe not, but vote. I'm saying it's not, I'm not gonna hold a fire to your toes if you don't vote, if a majority of eligible voters aren't voting. A majority of eligible voters aren't voting because it is a privilege to even have the education to know how to register to vote in the first place. Why do you think Republicans make it so fucking hard for people to vote? Because they know it takes a level of education, resources, and privilege that most people don't have. So again, we have to remember that it takes a level of privilege to ignore politics and a level of privilege to even get involved in the first place, right? So I'm accounting for those communities. Now, they went on to say, don't vote hoping things will change. Just accept the world isn't ready. Yes, don't vote expecting things to change. But if you're lucky, things will change. Make sure you find your communities, your tribes, your bubbles. Make sure you're seen and validated by the people around you. Make sure you're not involved in political bubbles or any bubble that is going to dehumanize you. Absolutely correct. Okay. And then this person said, which I obviously found super frustrating because the only way things change is through the collective action. I don't believe that. I think many things change through collective action. I don't think only, they said only, things only change. And I don't think that's true, right? Okay. Now, when I came back on YouTube after taking a break, I did come on thinking, I'm not going to explain myself to people. I'm just going to speak my truth and people can either get it or they don't. I think that was fun and I don't regret that. But now that I'm getting older and I'm going to be 40 by the time Trump hopefully leaves office, I would like to age into my 40s gracefully and prepare myself to explain to people, no matter how many times it takes, because apparently that's what's going to happen, that there is a difference between voting, which you should always do if you want to. I'm not going to pressure you. It's not my obligation. It's not my desire to pressure you to vote. If you vote, to recognize that voting isn't the only thing. It's not like I voted, I did my part. Voting is only one part of the part. Okay. Now, okay. Let me see. To make this make sense, what I'm going to do, because I think this person felt similar to other people who didn't understand why my work had shifted or why I was doing different things. I found this TikTok yesterday that I thought was so great. She explains bubbles without even, probably understanding she's explaining bubbles, in that traditional sense. Though I think everyone knows subconsciously that everyone lives in a bubble. I think everyone thinks that if you live in a bubble, it means you're ignorant, and I'm not ignorant, so I can't live in a bubble, but everyone's ignorant. That's the point of bubbles, is we are all limited to our perception. Check out this TikTok I found and we'll use it to have the larger conversation. Okay.
About how there's people on this earth in the same. Isn't it crazy to think about how there's people on this earth in the same country as you, and their next thought is about what they're going to wear to brunch this weekend or what happy hour they're going to go to? At the same time, across the world, there's children kissing their parents goodbye, parents finding their children's limbs under rubble, children getting amputated without any anesthesia. In In our own country, there's students being taken, there's union members being taken by ICE, and there's people who, there's not even like a tiny speck of their brain that thinks about this. Isn't it crazy?
Okay, so that's a perfect example of bubbles. And the reason I say you must radically accept this, that your suffering isn't universal suffering, that what's happening to you is your whole world, isn't even being registered by other people. It's not even being registered. And I know people can't fathom it because to them, it's like everybody must know. Everybody in my circle knows, so everybody in your circle must know. But that's not what's happening. We are not having universal experiences on like one-to-one. We are all having very specific experiences. Very, very specific. So, you know, even when Palestine first, October 7th, that start of it, not the last 75 years, when people were like, Brittany, talk about Palestine. I was like, don't fucking tell me what to do. I don't like it when people demand that I care about their suffering more than I care about the suffering that I'm focused on in the moment, which is very possibly autistic of me, but it really is very hard to make a demand of a person, all of us who already feel like we're struggling under the weight of the economy. We're struggling with our own politics at home. Even now, April 4th, I think is like a very big protest that's about to happen. Black communities are arguing on whether or not they should show up to support because Black activists have been so vocal, so present that now they are deciding if they want to participate or if, you know, everyone else can handle it on their own. Because sometimes it's overwhelming to have to show up to every protest. It can be very overwhelming. And on top of showing up, you have to pay your bills. You have to do all these things that it's already difficult, right? Palestinians are under their own reign of suffering, and we should free Palestine. They shouldn't be genocided. And remember that they still have to go to work too. That Palestinians aren't automatically getting fed because they're being genocided. That Israel is literally blocking aid from getting to them. That these people still have to find a way to feed their kids, right? So like they're under a weight of tragedy. Like it is so horrible what is happening to them. This doesn't mean that globally there isn't other tragedies. And so as a human, we must accept that we cannot save the world. We can only process that, oh my God, this thing that is happening to me isn't a universal experience. Like I always say, in my conservative family, how many kids got to come out gay before you all ditch the church? Apparently 1,000. Apparently never. You might be the first kid in your family to come out as gay. You are not the first gay person in your family. So remember that your experience is yours, right? Okay, she explained bubbles perfectly. That's what's happening. Okay, now a person, this is, by the way, this is Little Yeg. I'll go ahead and link the video in the chat. You guys can check her out. I thought that was just like a really well thought out little, okay, so now this is the reply to somebody who said, I'm just a girl. I'm in my soft era. Politics is so low vibrational. Maybe one day I'll look into it, but not now. I assume that person is probably 18, 19, 17. Makes a lot of sense. The average, eligible voter doesn't vote. Like a majority of people who could vote aren't even out here voting. So it makes sense to me that this could be somebody's reaction. To a lot of people, politics is just so over there. Like I need people to understand in political bubbles, you are not the world. Like you are you are a part of the bubble where men utilize politics to subjugate communities, but you are not the world. Like you are not a universal experience, even though everybody is impacted by politics. So remember, if you're into politics, like my family and my bestie, her family growing up, our families were political families. We were the weirdos. Oh, you guys are very into your politics. Like you guys have your signs, your George Bush and Al Gore signs. Like, oh, you guys are very into that. We, as a family, that's why we were best friends, because we both loved politics. We were the weird kids who liked politics. And then people don't realize even now, you're still the weird kids for liking politics. You just don't know it because you're so in the bubble. You think everybody cares about politics. But listen to what she said, because I think it's important.
Misunderstood my previous video about how I can't comprehend how some people are pretending like nothing is wrong on this world or in this country and just going about their days and going to brunch. Here's a picture from the Black Lives Matter protest where this was happening as well. I'm not saying you can't have happiness or you can't be in your soft girl era or you can't enjoy life. My video is simply about the people that are ignoring it. If you ask them about Mahmoud Khalil, they'll say, who is that? And to the comments saying things like, well, there's enough issues in this country. I also want you to care about the issues in this country. Commenting about the unhoused issue we have here is whataboutism in this context, because I want you to care about all of those things. I'm not saying you have to only care about one thing. I think some people
So fair. But again, I think the message can be heard. I want you to care about this thing because I care about this thing. Like I'm very lightly, very minimally following what's happening in South Sudan. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in the Congo, Rwanda, like all of these places. You could dedicate your whole time just learning about that and never knowing about Palestinian struggle. You could dedicate your whole life to just learning about Palestine and never know about any other struggle. You could dedicate your whole life to gender struggles and never really know about any other struggles. And I think people forget, like, we're going to die without knowing even 1% of the world's information. Less, far less, right? Like we are going to die not knowing. And I think it's our egos. And that's what I was trying to get away from the last 4 years, was convincing myself that I knew. I don't know. I don't think any of us know. I think Trump doesn't know. I don't think Cory Booker knows. I don't think anybody knows. I think everybody is pretending to know because it fits the narrative of the two bubble, because the two bubble sells you a narrative that you know. And I am here to say, in a philosophy sense, we do not know. Like, we do not know. We just think we know because that's what the script is. That's what we're born into. We're born into a fairy tale that tells us we know. And, you know, that's why, you know, Socrates is always credited as saying, like, all we know is that we know nothing, basically. But like, this is the perception issue. It's not, you're not a bad person for being upset with a YouTuber for not feeling validated by my work, right? You're not a bad person. You're wrong in my intentionality. You're wrong to say that I switched up or that I need to be real. You're wrong that you understand me, but you're not wrong for feeling misunderstood by a YouTuber because you guys are on a different journey, right? This person isn't wrong for wanting people to care about Palestinian struggle or any of the other things that are happening. No one is wrong for wanting people to care. We just might be wrong internally and we're doing ourselves a disservice. We might not think about it in a way that satisfies our joy. Once I radically accepted, okay, that people were all in their bubbles and they were on a journey, and it wasn't my job to make prescriptions, but my job to not only live as an example, but to keep saying the things that I was saying because it really changed my life. And it saved me from so many years of like self-harm and suicidal ideations and attempts. Like all of those things went away once I did radically accept, like, oh, we really are just like evolved animals on a planet. And this idea that we know is so real, but it's not an experience I have to live with for the rest of my life. Remember that I was protesting. I was collecting signatures. I was canvassing or caucusing. I was in there. I was like involved in politics. I was trying to be somebody. And then I realized, oh, this attachment I have to outcome, I don't think it's serving me anymore. But I have been very consistent the last 4 years of what I've been trying to say. The dilemma is that I'm always becoming more wise in how I'm saying it. And so I think I'm saying it better more than ever now. But I want to go back and take a little tour of Brittany, because this person was in the comments like, Brittany switched up. And a lot of political YouTubers in the debate bro bubble that I left, they would say that. They'd be like, Brittany, why aren't you engaging with us in politics? Because your takes suck, first of all. And I don't want to have to argue with centrists about why trans people should be allowed to play in sports. I don't want to talk to you. I just don't want to have that conversation with you. I don't want to dedicate my life to justifying my existence in the world with people. I don't want to do it. And then people would say, oh, Brittany is so opinionated about politics, but she won't debate me. Yeah, because your debate points suck. I'm not going to get on a stream with people and debate whether or not gay people are like inherently predatory or not. Like, I'm sorry, this isn't 2008. I'm not doing it. And because I'm not doing it, I say I'm not in the political bubble, because that's what politics is. Politics is expecting minorities to get on a platform and justify why they have the right to exist. I'm not doing it anymore. Okay? Now, if you want to work in your communities, if you want to uphold your people, your neighbors, do that. If you want to work with people, if you want to raise money, if you want to clean up streets, do that. But if you're telling me that the only way through is performance politics, I'm good, girl. I remember the story I learned about the founding fathers. They used to like gossip about each other in like newspapers and send them out to people, or newspapers, you know, and they would like send it out to the collective. And I think that's funny, but I also think that's like humans. We're all the same. Our founding fathers weren't an alien human species. They were us at a different timeline, but they were us. They had our brains, our capacity of intelligence, our ability to problem solve. Like, they weren't different from us, right? So yesterday on stream, I opened up with this monologue, just a refresher in case you missed it. This is what the person was upset about, right? Because they felt like the last 4 years I've been telling people not to vote, even though I've made it clear I've been voting. They said that I tried to tell people not to be political. I'm telling you, stop debating people about your rights to exist. Do you remember the one time I was on a debate? See, if you want to talk about anything I regret over the last 4 years, collabing with Destiny. That's what I regret. I regret listening to my viewer who was like, please collab with one of my fave YouTubers. And like, yes, a lot of good things happened. I met a lot of good people, but damn, I've jumped into the worst political bubble, the most bad faith bubble I've ever been in my life. And do you remember one time I was talking to him and he was like, oh, I like Biden. And I was like, wait, you like Biden? He was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, aren't you progressive? He's like, yeah, wait, you don't like Biden? And I was like, I don't want to talk to you about politics. And I have as a progressive, very strong opinions about Biden. And the fact that Destiny was pro-Biden should have been every sign I needed to realize like, oh, you're not really a progressive. You're one of those like liberals who say you're progressive. But I did it. It wasn't clicking. And everyone's like, oh, Brittany's pussing out of the conversation. Brittany doesn't talk about politics. But I knew. And I was like, I don't want to have this conversation with you. I don't want to have these political conversations with people that don't even understand their own labels. So for him to label himself as like a progressive or at the time, all of these other things, and then sit there and be like, oh yeah, Biden's a great president. I think we're judging Biden on different metrics as a progressive, right? Okay, so you can be mad at me for a lot of things, but I'm mad at myself enough for engaging in that horribly bad faith bubble. Okay, so this is what I said yesterday on stream. As you guys know, I often say on my channel that I'm not in the political bubble. This does not mean that I am not a voter. This does not mean that I do not pay taxes. This does not mean that I do not listen to NPR every morning. This does not mean that I don't follow the news. This does not mean that I am not. Now, keep in mind the last 4 years, I did take a step away from the news and I stopped following a lot of news stuff. And then I came back into it, but I've never ever turned off the news fully because my family's very political. My friends are political. We all watch the news, but to a normie who never watches the news, me saying I don't watch the news means I still spend at least an hour or to 3 hours of my day watching the news. When I say I don't watch the news anymore, I mean I don't watch it 10 hours a day like I used to. So even the way that I speak is confusing for people because I'm comparing it to people who never watch the news. Never. Guys, never. They never watch the news. And I don't even know how I could exist as a person and never literally watch the news. Like I would have to avoid the internet. You know what I mean? I would have to avoid my life to be able to avoid the news, right? Not politically involved in spirit / paying attention to when my civil rights are being threatened. Okay. When Brittany says I am not in the political bubble, what I mean to say is I'm not a person who's actively working in that bubble. And I am not trying to be a voice or a leader in that bubble. I am still a tax-paying American. I am still a minority. I'm still doing advocacy work in my own personal life, but I'm not doing advocacy work in a traditional sense. So I don't want to take credit for the hard work other people are doing in their communities by saying, oh yes, I'm politically involved, because that feels like stolen valor. Literally, I was catching up on like debate bro bubbles that I wasn't in. So I was like watching Not So Erudite and Tomfoolery talk about politics. And I wanted to pull my hair out because it was the most, with peace and love, centrist conversation I've ever heard. I don't want to engage with these people. I don't want to talk to centrists who are obsessed with, condemning Hassan and obsessed with oh yeah, this is how leftists should really act. And this is why we're losing voters. And, oh, this is how we get people to vote. Don't talk to me. I don't want to do it. It's brain dead. It's not genuine. They think it's genuine, but they're not the people that I think are serious about political stuff. You know what I mean? They're not serious, because when it comes down to being serious, they don't act the way that I expect people to act. But then, who does in this political theater where Trump is president, right? With peace and love, I tried to give them a chance. I tried to check back in with them to see where they're at. And the whole conversation was brain dead. Erudite, Not So Erudite, literally makes an argument that Jordan Peterson wouldn't have been radicalized against trans people if we were nicer to him. And to be fair to tomfoolery, he did push back on that. But after all these years, all the work she's done, and she's still writing, she's still in that era of her life. I get it, right? I get it. But for the love of God, this man is a PhD, 50-year-old man. Why are we babying and infantilizing him? Why are we literally looking at Jordan Peterson and saying, if we were just nicer to him, he wouldn't be such a transphobe? Like, please. It's so exhausting. Okay. So yeah, I don't want to be a part of these fucking loser political bubbles. No offense, none taken. Okay. I don't want to be a part of them. They're not good. I don't like them. They're limited. They're not introspective, and they're trapped in a political bubble. So I stand by what I said. Now, let's go back and visit old Britney, so I can make it clear to people, not only am I the most consistent content creator on this platform, but I'm dead serious about the work I do. Thank you. September 8th, 2023, live stream, politics versus philosophy.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, I'm really excited about today's episode.
Bear with me here.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, hold on.
Chuo, get your drinks.
Sorry, I thought I timestamped it already. Apparently I didn't.
All day. I've been moving stuff all day. Okay. What we're gonna do is, look, it's political season, and I've been out of politics publicly for a long time. Like, obviously,
See, look at me. Look at me.
I vote and I have my personal opinions about politics, but I think one of the goals I have for this coming year is to make it clear that I do have specific values and I'm very strong on those values. But again, I'm not trying to prescribe that to everybody. I'm not trying to make a prescription here. I'm not trying to say that you have to be exactly like me, but I do think the best way to find a fulfilling sense of joy is to know yourself through philosophy and through politics, because politics is a part of your life. I think a lot of people ignore politics, but also are involved in politics in their daily life without realizing it. So every time you earn a penny and you pay tax, that's a version of politics in some ways, right? So you're interacting with the government whether you like it or not. And I think the government is a reflection of the people. And I think the people and the government play this game of who's more at fault, and I don't want to pay attention to that part. I want to talk about how you need philosophy to understand the politics of people, and how the philosophy, the value idea around a concept, helps humanize the people who are on the opposite aisle of you. And so I think there's something to be said about this that's really important. I thought we could use the new Jubilee video as the example, since some people wanted me to talk about it anyways. And a lot of the...
Okay, do you see? Pretty consistent. Look at me. Chess says, does that mean Rashad is out of the friend list? Rashad and I are cool. As of right now, Rashad Crenshaw and I are cool. I DM'd him about some stuff, and him and I are good. He's on the same page. I think he might be more centristy, and he's also 23 years old, guys. He's a kid, okay, in comparison. He's on a different journey. He might be very typical Democrat, but he's also 10 years younger. So okay, I'm getting more than 10 years. I'm giving him space. He seems fine. I don't want to vouch for people. I don't know him personally, but as of right now, him and I, we might collab in the future. I have nothing against Rashad. Him and I are cool. But him and I have differing opinions on political stuff, right? He thinks the Democrats should go harder and sometimes as low as the Republicans. And I think that's not a good idea. But I like Rashad. I have nothing bad to say about him yet. And hopefully never. Okay? Hopefully never. But, and again, none of these people, all these people are beautiful people, and I wish them all the best. Just as political voices, I don't care for Not So Erudite's opinion. I don't care about tomfoolery. I don't care about Destiny. I don't care about Vosh. I don't care about any of these people's opinions when it comes to politics. None of them are serious. I'm sorry. In my opinion, when I expect seriousness out of people involved in politics, none of these people qualify. But that's my opinion. You don't have to take it to heart. You don't have to act like, oh, well, Brittany said this, so it matters. I'm just saying, in my opinion, as a personal person, I don't care what any of these people think about politics. They are not serious. Okay? But that's just, I don't think politics is very serious. Trump is president. Trump is president. So how serious is politics even really? Okay? Okay? Next video, Brittany, February 10th, 2022. So I'm not really sure that we can sit here and mock LARPers. This is called adults playing pretend from gender to religion. And D&D players for spending too much time wasting their life away with games, when I feel like
everything we're doing in society is sort of a game.
This commentary is coming from the perspective of, if you don't pay attention to politics, like, you're not being responsible. And in my opinion, if you spent your whole life playing video games and never fucking with society, I would consider that a win. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I think sometimes y'all got good intentions that are ruining the world. Okay, if all the homophobes stayed home and never bothered anyone, I would consider that a win. Remember that when you encourage people to vote as a progressive, you're also encouraging conservatives to show up and vote. Do you know what I'm saying? You are also saying to conservatives, oh, get up and vote. So you're not just talking to your people, you're talking to their people, and they're going to hear, oh, well, they're all getting out to vote. I'm going to get out to vote. And that's not wrong. They should all vote if they want to. I'm just saying, in my mind, sometimes I really wish people would stay home and mind their business. You know what I mean?
And I'm okay with that game, but I don't really understand the idea that, like, if this is our one life and we're going to die, there's anything really wrong with spending your life playing video games unless you have different goals, right? Because video games or playing D&D or spending your life streaming is all well and good. It's great. There's no judgment there. But it won't always lead you to the path that you think you're going to get to. Okay, so the last line of thinking that I really have with this that I think is sort of important but not important is how we go about judging people's choices of pretend. Now, that's not to say, like, even people who are falling in love are sort of playing pretend. Like, oh, I met you on Tinder and I'm in love with you. It's been 3 months. It's sort of a version of pretend. But they don't mean it to be. People don't mean their lives to be pretend. They're very serious about them. But I kind of wonder if that's just a state of mind, because, like, when I was in BDSM.
Now, how much of this is also autistic, undiagnosed autistic Brittany processing scripts and bubbles? Listen, if I was diagnosed autistic as a kid, my life would have been so different. My life would have been so different in how I express myself, how I even process this thing. Obviously, so much of what Brittany is observing about the world is also through her autistic brain. But she doesn't know it yet. This Brittany doesn't know she's autistic. So this girl is making some fire points. And now imagine the video was through an autistic lens. And it would even make so much more sense to people. But because it's not through an autistic lens, people are like going to get more angry at it. People are going to feel a way about it. But this is literally my brain processing everything that I'm seeing. And I'm like, I don't get it. Why are you doing that? I don't get why people are doing this. And it's me accepting that I'm learning that people, and this is what fiveness is, it's accepting that people are exactly who they are. And the world is exactly as it is. And you pretending that, like, oh, they're following these scripts and they're NPCs. And if they just changed, they can't change until they're ready. You're not better because you can see the script. You're just having a different perspective. Because there was a time in my life, and we'll cover it in a second, where I didn't see the scripts. I didn't see it as much. I thought I saw it. As a little kid growing up, I thought I got it. But it wasn't until I really understood it that I was like, oh, like, all of it is like a really large construct, but the constructs matter because they exist and they were created out of desire. And that desire can't be ignored, even if to some extent it's not real. Right?
I was there every day. It was very important. I actually hated people who treated it casually. And now I'm like, don't care. Because I know ultimately it is a version of playing pretend. And it's only impacting the people in that bubble. Like, it doesn't even exist outside the bubble, right? Even 50 Shades of Grey played pretend as a book to represent BDSM, but only represented kink, really, and parts of BDSM. And the BDSM community, who takes their pretend very seriously, was like, no, this is my lifestyle. This means something to me. Even being a vegan for the sake of, like, animals not getting tortured is sort of playing pretend. As my farm brother brought up, like, he said,
uh-oh, vegan talks as plant-based Brittany coming in here. Present day plant-based Brittany.
well, vegan foods, like, the way they're created hurts animals in the long run because of the environmental impact, right? It's like, is it sort of playing pretend that we care about environmental impacts when we are not very environmentally conscious? I don't know. Like, I don't want to say that people's lives are meaningless completely, because I don't think that's true. I think on the macro, we are participants in, like, the planet, and we're organisms as much as anything else is, and we're doing our best. And then on the micro, I feel like it impacts us in a very real and concrete way, like, very importantly. And so we have to pay homage to that and respect that, right? I don't want to look at people who go to church and think, you're just playing pretend, so I don't care about you. No, I care about you a lot. I hope you're happy and you find meaning in existence. I don't want to look at people who just, like, play D&D all day as, like, people who spend their time wasting their life away in a game. But, like, aren't we all kind of wasting time in a game where we think our gender is the most important thing, or ethnicity, or like our religions? And so this game gets escalated to a point of actually causing like people's lives to end, which is really scary. And so I think what I'm trying to propose is that if we're all kind of playing pretend in a great way, would it make society a little less violent to acknowledge that? Because I feel like as I've become more introspective, I've become less and less violent, less interested in hurting people, less interested in feeling afraid of people. I've become less afraid of myself. I've become just so open to the human experiences. Like, humans are going to human. So we're going to have real human experiences. They're going to hurt us. We're going to feel pain. We're going to cry, but not maybe to the extent we could have before. Before, when I thought the world was happening to me, instead of me being a participant, a real participant in the world, truly enough to hold myself accountable, I was less forgiving of people, less forgiving of myself. I expected like this outrageous form of perfection that again comes out of a place of playing pretend, as if humans could be perfect. And so I think I am saying,
Thank you. Chat says consistent. Thank you, chat. I feel like I'm so fucking consistent. This is 2022. Wait a second. Let's go further back, girls. 2021, September 23rd, 2021, Britney, reviewing older Britney.
bullshit.
And now at this time, on this Britney, I can't remember. I remember where I was. I remember filming this video. I can't remember how old this Britney was, but I don't remember. It would have been like 6 years ago, 7. I don't remember. Whenever The View had this story on TV about the sailor being kissed. So this was many, many years ago, right? Okay.
The journey of my life, I've become extremely unapologetic for who I am. I'm done. I have values and I stick to them. So hypocrisy be gone. I'm watching The View. I watch it.
Look at how I talk too, right? Like, it took me almost all of this time, and I'm still working on it now, like learning how to talk like myself. Because I've been masking my whole life. I've been trying to figure out how to talk in Britney's voice. I've been trying to also recognize that if I talk the way I talk when there's no cameras, it's not good for my job, right?
It every day to try to get insight into women's voices. And what I got from today's episode was shameful and disgusting.
Oh my God, look at the three Britneys on screen. So here I'm talking now, 2025 Britney. There's 2021 Britney and the blue sweater. And then, God, this Britney here, I don't know what year she was, but she was definitely like probably 7 years ago or something. You know, something like that. But yeah, okay, I'm going to press play.
The women talked about the iconic picture in World War II, the kissing of the soldier and the perceived nurse.
She said, suddenly I was grabbed by a sailor and it wasn't that much of a kiss. Because I actually thought that they knew each other and that he was coming home to her. Mm-hmm. And apparently he had a girlfriend. Oh. And she wasn't the girlfriend. Just a little piece of history. And then she said, the guy just came over and kissed me. And that no words were exchanged, and they didn't see each other again until 1980 when Life magazine contacted them to celebrate. And at that time, she did not want to recreate the kiss.
I think this is just like she was older.
So it just seemed to me that, you know, it was jubilant and all of that, but she didn't necessarily consent to it.
But can we just stop? I understand that maybe she didn't consent, whatever, but everything I love is being destroyed by PC politics, and not everything, but I like this photo too.
I watch The View on a daily basis. Before, I didn't because I thought they were hypocrites, but then I saw something shift in the era of Me Too.
Ugh, I hate the way this Britney talks, for the record. I really hate it. Sorry.
And Time's Up. I saw that The View was trying to understand the shift.
Okay, not important. What's important is look at how I'm talking then and look how I talk now.
And then look how I talking then and look how I talk now. Like, that's the point, is like, I have grown, I have changed, but my beliefs around the world are shifting. But I've been pretty consistent the last few years. I'm just like, I feel like I'm perfecting it, right? Okay.
This Britney was still clinging to the left. Consent culture, feminism, Me Too. Like, I was very involved because at this time I was also very open about having been assaulted in my early 20s, and I was really upset at how people were reacting to that. Okay, so this whole thing is happening. I'm really upset. I used to watch The View and Stephen Colbert every day.
every day. Philip DeFranco every day.
Now I'm back on Phil. I got off Phil that time, and now I'm back on Phil in 2025. Now I watch Phil every day again because I shift. I go back and forth. Who's my news source? Who am I listening to? And even when I watch Phil now, I also go back and like see his sources and try to get the same like stories from different sources. But I'm back on Phil now in 2025.
And then something shifted, and guys, I don't even think about those people anymore. Like Philip DeFranco, I see on occasion because my sister still watches, so we talk about it. But like Colbert, I haven't watched in forever. The View, I haven't watched in forever because now I know like they're all fucking 2s, 2As, 3s on occasion. But like, listen to Meghan McCain. Can we just stop? Can we just stop? My childhood is being ruined. Really, bitch? Is it being ruined? And then the same front, like Joy or whatever, Behar eventually goes and says something like, oh, well.
Oh, this Britney's high, by the way. She's been smoking. The Britney you're listening to in 2021, she's smoking. So she's high right now.
If he's hot, I don't care who.
Versus this Britney, 2025 Britney hasn't smoked weed since she moved to Europe. Because I follow the rules.
Kisses me in the street. Let's be honest. Some women have different blurred lines when it comes to consent. And I think at the end of the day, the reason this Britney's so angry is because I thought women were all fighting for the same version of consent, which was consent from the start. But let's be honest, we're not all fighting for that. Eventually, I got a little bit more 3-ish in terms of racism. And again, I thought I was like breaking the barriers of racism. And I would make videos like this. This is you hate Serena Williams because racism. I love this. 1, 2, 3. Also, I miss my
Love Serena Williams.
undercut. Look at my hair. I miss my undercut.
Welcome back to Thoughts for Thoughts. My name is Brittany Simon. 2 things I would like you to observe. First and foremost, holy crap, my makeup's on point today. I do have a sunburn. I was out
I don't know if it's on point, but I appreciate the effort, Brittany.
at the wineries yesterday with a friend of mine. We decided to get a little wild and have a little fun. Don't worry, I'm still 2 years alcohol free this August.
Not that that matters. Why did I say it like that? Like alcohol mattered in my life. I've never been a drinker. I don't even know why she said it like that. Like, I literally don't even care about drinking. I literally have never, I only drink socially because everybody else was drinking socially. I'm gonna die. Okay, going back to that, Brittany.
But we did go, we had some fun, we sat in the sun, and man, did my skin soak up those cancer rays. So here we are with a little bit of red in my face. But I'm loving my makeup. Thank you, Kat Von D.
Sorry, let's just stop right there really fast.
Stop. Chet said, oh my gosh, James Charles who? I'm gonna fucking die. Okay, thank you. James Charles who? Okay, you guys got me.
So this Brittany has had therapy. This Brittany is feeling really good about herself. She's feeling very 3-ish, very like she's going to take over the world, very much like I understand the world, very confident, very happy, very confident, very good mental health wise, like was really doing pretty good. Having some bad days, some mental breaks, definitely having some triggers, but was for the most part doing much, much better.
But tennis is not one of my pastimes. With that said, Serena Williams is one of my favorite humans, and I actually follow her. I think she is exceptional. I think she is inspirational. And a lot of people have talked shit on Serena, right?
She's not as good as they say. She looks like a man. She's not as pretty. Blah, blah, blah.
All of that is rooted in some bias or racism or prejudice or sexism, right? Come on. You cannot deny, undeniably, Serena Williams is one of the best people ever to reach the sport of tennis. Okay? If you think otherwise...
One of the examples I used is I said, oh, she looks like a man. That's rooted in racism or bias. I look like a man.
And it is rooted in racism and prejudice because the way they insult women is to masculinize them, is to deny their womanhood because of how they came out. That's why transphobia also hurts women, because cis women are now being targeted in bathrooms, right? Because people think they look too much like men, which is, that's transphobia. That's racism. This hurts our communities, right?
One of the things I had to radically accept about myself is like, I get misgendered all the time. People think I'm manly.
The joke is, in 2025, I am a man. My pronouns are she, her, man. And I stand by that. So this Brittany in 2021 doesn't even know that's about to happen.
People insult me and tell me I look like a man. At the end of the day, women with prominent features, and look, I'm working out every day to get muscular. I'm just going to look more like a man.
More like a man, but not less of a woman. Let me tell you.
I don't even care. And I know women can have muscles, but you guys know what we mean when we say these things. At the end of the day, if we weren't really like all butthurt, like when people called us like It matters when people say you look like a man because we know what that means. We know what they're trying to insult us as. They're trying to say that, you know what I mean? Okay, so this
She's so high, bro. This Britney is so high.
Britney, listen to her reasoning. You only think Serena Williams looks like a man because it's rooted in bias and racism. Obviously, the nuance is that that's not true. You can think of Serena Williams as somebody who is...
But, and this is 2025, Britney, most people are not going to have that nuanced take, and it's giving too much credit to humans to think that they are. So 2025 Britney would tell 2021 Britney, you're right, you're on to something, but you're giving too much credit to people to think that they would be able to hold that nuance. And most people are just racist. Most people are just racist. Like, I wish it was something deeper. I wish there was some like, oh, I wish humans had more. Nope, the nuance is you're racist. But that's the problem is like, there could be. And I was giving so much more credit during these years to people than they deserved. Because I saw it in 1 or 2 or 3 people. And I was like, that's enough. And it's true, it exists. But as the whole, it does not exist. So be cautious.
Manly, and that's why you don't like her. Not because of racism or bias. You could argue the bias is in the idea that women should look feminine.
Yes.
But it's not in the bias of her race. Usually with Serena.
But it is primarily about her race. Like in 2020. So this is the thing about me. I am growing. I'm learning to communicate my thoughts in whole. This Britney is trying to talk to that Britney, like James Charles Britney. Ugh. So 2021 Britney is trying to talk to James Charles Britney, and 2025 Britney is trying to talk to both of those Britneys and say like, you're getting there, girl, but you're not quite there yet. Right? But like, hey, she's working on it and she's right, but she's wrong, but she's right, but she's wrong. And the same way that I'm right now and later I will be wrong because we are always right and we are always wrong. I will never be perfect. Now, again, in case you missed the beginning of the stream, I'm going back to show you how consistent I've been with my ideas because I still hold the belief that politics is a specific bubble and there's a performativity that exists in that bubble that demands you showing up in a particular way. You want to talk about masking? Politics. You want to talk about privilege? It takes privilege to even be able to vote in the first place, and it takes privilege to ignore voting in the first place. Not all people who don't involve themselves in politics are doing it because they're privileged. Not all people who, do you know what I'm saying? Hold on, I don't know what the other counter of that is. But not all the people who, I guess, do engage in politics. No, just the first part's important. Not everybody who doesn't engage in politics is privileged. And that's the group of people we're forgetting about who don't even know. That's why Republicans make it so hard for people to vote, voter ID, registration, all of that stuff. Like, that's why minority communities are hit the hardest. Underprivileged or underserved communities are hit the hardest by Republican policy because they know it's privilege to vote. It's privilege. You have to have the privilege to vote. Everybody holds privilege, right? I believe everybody has privilege. And privilege, you know how I look at privilege a little bit? Like luck. I think privilege is like a form of luck. Like you were lucky to be born this meat suit, this gender, this neighborhood, this family, this whatever, right? Actually, hold on, let me bring it up really fast. I didn't plan for it, but let me go grab it. Let me grab this. Let me grab this. What's Vivian's name? What's Elon's daughter's TikTok? Vivian, right? Is that her name? Yeah, Vivian Jenna Wilson. Oh, she doesn't even have Elon's last name. Good for her, honestly. Vibes. What's her TikTok? She just put out the funniest TikTok. Here, I found it. I was dying.
You're like our Katniss Everdeen.
Okay, this is the funny. She's so funny. She's like literally so easily funny. Listen to this.
You're like our Katniss Everdeen. No, the fuck I am not. The book is about class struggles. I'm set in Appalachia. I was born into the aristocracy. Y'all need to stop saying this. It just makes me cringe, honestly.
Literally. Who is calling her Katniss? Who is calling her Katniss? That's what I want people to understand about human beings. I love that Vivian is so self-aware that she said that. Because it takes a level of self-awareness for her to be like, I literally cannot be Katniss. She was born into the richest, well, I don't want to say family because Elon doesn't have a family, but she was born into the lineage of the richest man on earth. She's not one of us. Like, she's not a regular person. Okay? But this is what I'm trying to make people understand. Human beings want to live vicariously through public figures. They want to live vicariously through the performance of politics. Politics is so important, but it is not your whole life. You exist outside of political constructs. You get to go home and take off your clothes and not have to think about fucking Trump. And at the same time, you, like me, probably sit in bed with your partner or your family members and think to them, hey, what are we going to do if it gets really bad? Maybe you sit at home by yourself, zenning out and think, what are we going to do if it gets really bad? Because right now it's getting pretty bad for a lot of people, but it hasn't hit home yet. What do we do when it hits our house? Again, we keep wondering why Germans were so able to ignore Hitler's rise. Because human beings are incredible at cognitive dissonance. We're so good at it. Me too. I'm great at it. Expecting perfection out of us as a species is so unfair to you and me. But making strives for the future is like good. Move forward. Do something about it. Like, do something about your life. Do it through politics. Do it through activism. FT Signifier said something really interesting in one of his videos. He said that the reason he's talking less about Trump and those politics is because he doesn't feel like it's as efficient for community building and like basically trying to do what he's trying to do. And platforming this man and giving him more clout when everybody else is doing it already just seems like maybe not the greatest use of his time. I think that's beautiful. I think that's another way to look at it. I think this original commenter, when they came for me, they were coming for they were expressing their own pain, right? They were expressing their own feeling of, they even said somewhere in the conversation, like a majority of your audience was feeling this way. I never got the impression that a majority of my audience felt any particular way, since I know my audience changes every few years, right? Because like that, I'm growing, so my audience will grow with me. But when they were expressing to me that they feel like, oh my God, Brittany, be so real. Like for the last 4 years, you've told people not to vote or like not to do politics, or politics is just for the twos. Yeah, that hasn't changed. Do politics if you want to do politics, but you don't have to make the demand of yourself. I am never going to encourage you to give in to political theater, right? You can do it if you want to do it, but I am never going to make that prescription onto you. I'm never going to say it's your responsibility to vote. It's your responsibility to live the best life you can in the most joyful manner, hopefully with harm reduction in mind. I am never going to put a prescription on you that you have to vote. You know why? Because obviously not. Most people don't vote. This idea that you have to vote, obviously not. Most people don't vote. If you would like to have a voice in a particular way through the means of politics, I highly recommend you vote. You don't have to, though. You can if you would like to. You don't have to, though. Because have to is a very specific prescription. Okay? Now, like I mentioned with these political bubbles, what's happening over on TikTok is that Black communities are saying, we're not going to protest with you. And other individuals who happen to be Black are saying, hey, we have to protest. I know we're tired. We have to go out there and do it. I'm not sure that I would even make the prescription on that. Because I'm sure people who've been doing it time and time again are probably fucking exhausted, because Black women in particular have shown up, have canvassed, have protested, have cleaned up streets, have gathered signatures. They have been there every time, and they're tired, and they have the right to feel tired. At the same time, hopefully there will be people who can take their place when other people need to rest. I think instead of saying like Black communities shouldn't show up to protest, it should be more like, let people rest who have been there every time, and let somebody come in and do it temporarily. Let's switch off. This obligation we have to go to every protest is valid in certain political bubbles, depending on your position in the community, but less valid for the everyday mom, everyday dad, everyday parent, everyday sibling who has other things going on. That's not to say that we shouldn't protest. It's not to say we shouldn't vote. It's not to say you can't show up. Look, if I was over in America and I could participate in those protests happening for Mahmoud and all these other people, I would have been there, right? Even here in Croatia, we participated in some protests already. Look at us. Like literally, because at the end of the day, like if Croatians are feeling the weight of this economy and they can't afford their groceries, and all we have to do is not shop at a grocery store for a little while, like we're happy to do that. And we did do that. We participated, right? We are doing little things in our own way. So I might not be in America protesting, but I'm in Croatia protesting, because I think Croatians deserve to feel like they can afford their groceries the same way I think Americans should feel that way. This economy isn't just hitting you guys. It's a global hit. Trump and everything he does doesn't just impact Americans. So for all those people who come to my comment section and say, Brittany, I don't want to hear you talk about American politics. You're not even here. You're right, girl. I'm not there, but I'm still paying taxes and I'm still voting and I'm busy somewhere else in the world that doesn't revolve around you and your ego and yet still is impacted by it. And we need to protest in other places too. So you can sit here and think you're better than me, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm still showing up, whether you like the way I show up or not. Okay, let's talk about political theater. To close this out, let's go to our new best friend, Philip DeFranco. Just kidding. He's a consistency, that Philip DeFranco. We love him. Let's talk about the story around Cory Booker and political theater and why it matters, but why we also have to examine that it is political theater. Right? It just is, right? Made it in the chat says, as an autistic woman, I think my difficulty with politics has been convergent with my difficulty with social understanding. It's important, but the way I come to understand it seems to be very different from many people, if not most. Yeah, relatable. Relatable. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Philip DeFranco covered Cory Booker. If you guys didn't hear, Cory Booker basically live streamed 22 hours and did this amazing job at showing up and breaking records and speaking on behalf of his constituents. And you know what's interesting about Cory Booker? He shows up in a lot of the documentaries I watch about health and plant-based diets and veganism. Cory Booker showed up in a few of those documentaries. So he's out here. He's doing some stuff. So let's see how Phil covers the story, and then we'll have a conversation around it.
Big news just around the corner. But then next up from that, we got to talk about 25 hours and 5 minutes. That is
25 hours. I thought it was 22 hours. 25 hours. 25 hours. Holy crap.
how long Cory Booker stood on the Senate floor speaking virtually nonstop in protest of Donald Trump's administration, with him starting at 7 p.m. on Monday night and ending around 8 p.m. Tuesday night, which historically made it the longest speech in congressional history, with him beating the record set in 1957 by the segregationist Strom Thurmond, who filibustered the Civil Rights Act for over 24 hours.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that white racist. Like, isn't that hilarious? And I love that for Cory. Fuck that white racist. Go Cory Booker, you know?
Which, you know, as many have noted, makes this feat 68 years later even more symbolic, since Booker himself is a black man. And in fact, he later told reporters that was part of the motivation for him to keep going.
Let's go.
There's a strange shadow to hang over this institution, that the longest speech, with all the issues that have come up, all the noble causes that people have done, or the things that took to try to stop. I just found it strange that he had the record.
You know, the main focus of this speech was the state of our country in 2025, and he talked about fucking everything. He went military-grade yapper. He covered healthcare, education, immigration, housing, the economy, social security, veterans affairs, agriculture, trade, foreign policy, democracy, women's rights, racial equality, and more. And even with that, he says he didn't get to everything he wanted to cover, with his staff even reportedly having worked throughout last week to fill 15 binders with 1,164 pages of material for his speech, which notably is why he never pulled out any of the gimmicks used to kill time in previous filibusters and marathon speeches, like reading the phone book or Dr. Seuss. In fact, when fellow Democrats tried to introduce some levity, such as when Chuck Schumer or Amy Klobuchar invited him to chat about sports or music, Booker acknowledged them but refused the distractions and went right back to his speech.
I won't stand for the collective assault on the Constitution by a man who even the highest judge in our land, a Republican-appointed judge, said stop threatening and bullying other branches of government.
And despite...
You can hear in his voice when I was watching, because I was watching live for a bit, not the whole thing, obviously. I was just like, oh my gosh, he is truly going for it. Like, his voice must need, like, he must have lost his voice the next day. Look, this isn't the first time, but what's cool about it is that political theater is both performative and necessary, because it really speaks to the heart of people. I would love to live in a world where we didn't need political theater, but political theater is exactly what got Trump elected. And it's exactly what people have to participate to some extent in order to move things forward. So again, when we have larger conversations about masking, showing up in the world, playing games, know that it is necessary and unnecessary at the same time, depending on your goal. And this is what's so key about the content that I think I'm bringing to this platform. The conversation that I'm trying to have is that you have the power to pick and choose your battles much more than you think you do. Your joy isn't always going to be in other people's activism or other people's religions or other people's relationship with gender. It's going to be in your own relationship with these things. So Cory Booker is obviously fulfilling some internal role that he's been playing. You know, Philip DeFranco is consistent. This is obviously his calling. Hassan, his calling. Me, my calling. I'm obviously the happiest and most joyful I've ever been. And this is obviously a part of my calling. Do I still think that my calling is going to grow and shift over time? Yes. But I think ultimately it's my love for people, my love for like having a place in the universe and fighting that meaning crisis that makes me continue as consistent as I've been for the last 4 or 5 years. Because like this for me has been my turning point in my life. My life, my work is a reflection of where where I am on my journey, right? So Cory doing this is performance. But it's very important performance because it's kind of how politics works. I don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it.
Clearly getting worn down as the hours passed, he just powered through. With him saying as late as 15 hours in that he still had fuel in the tank, and some 21 hours in, you had Ted Cruz even tweeting a joke that he was contemplating pulling the fire alarm. But obviously he didn't, and Booker continued, and a few hours later, the bell tolled on Strom Thurmond's legacy.
Would the senator yield for a question?
Chuck Schumer, it's the only time in my life I can tell you no.
I just want to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
Even Chuck Schumer saying that, it's a part of the performance. It's a part of giving flowers in a way that feels good. You know, even that is a part of the performance, but it's so necessary because humans, we are storytellers. We are all little theater kids trapped inside this like capitalistic hellscape, okay? We are all storytellers. Our ancestors are storytellers. The way that we communicate is through story. The best way to understand people is through narrative. And Cory and Schumer together, they're telling you a story. They're putting on a play, and we're the audience, and it's moving. It's convincing. I'm convinced. I believe it. I love it. It doesn't mean that it's not a performance. It also doesn't make it bad because it is one.
Right in there, you had a clearly emotional Booker there, wiping tears from his face and placing a hand over his heart. But even with that, he still didn't stop. He kept going for almost another hour. And, you know, also, I'll say, when you think about the raw demands made upon body and mind, like, this is pretty impressive. Right, first of all, obviously, he couldn't sleep, so you can imagine the exhaustion that he must have felt from that. He also couldn't use the bathroom at all, and according to his staff, he wasn't wearing a catheter or a diaper. With him later explaining that he had fasted since Friday and stopped drinking water on Sunday night. Which, I mean, just throwing myself in there, if that was me, I'd barely be able to form words.
Oh, I would literally pass out. I would literally, if I don't even eat every 3 hours, I can't even form sentences. Like, absolutely not. He killed it. I don't even know how he did it. I don't know what adrenaline he was on. Maybe he meditated before. Maybe Cory was like, maybe he meditated before because, like, girl.
Halfway through. And that's without mentioning the muscle cramps and spasms that he says the lack of water caused, in which he was apparently struggling to keep under control as the speech progressed. And then also there's the fact that he had to stand up the entire time without a single break for 25 straight hours, because that is one of the Senate rules, that you have to remain standing if you want to hold the floor. And actually with that, you had Senator Chris Murphy explaining that Booker had someone remove his chair just so he didn't feel tempted to sit down. All of which, of course, led him to feeling aching back pain and sore legs. Especially because, keep in mind, this is a 50.
Just for the record, I know, again, I don't want to talk about my pain too much. But I am like in pain right now sitting. I was in so much pain yesterday after stream because like my fibro just makes everything uncomfortable, which I know a lot of you feel. And I'm only here for a couple of hours sitting. I'm sitting. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, just to put it into perspective, like Maiden said it so well, it's a physical feat as much as an intellectual one. This is like watching a person run a marathon. Like, this is like so amazing. It is absolutely exactly that. This is very impressive.
55-year-old guy is going to be 56 this month. You know, with this marathon speech, he finally concluded his performance, and you can literally hear his voice quivering with the weight of the burden that he endured.
The power of the people is greater than the people in power. It is time to heed the words of the man I began this whole thing with, John Lewis. He said he had to do something. He would not normalize a moment like this. He would not just go along with business as usual. He wouldn't know how to solve it. But there's one thing that he would do that I hope we all can do, that I think I did a little bit of tonight. He said for us to go out and cause some good trouble, necessary trouble.
I like that. Good trouble, necessary trouble, good trouble.
To redeem the soul of our nation. It's getting good trouble. My friend, Madam President, I yield the floor.
You know, like we talked about briefly yesterday, the reaction from Democrats has largely been one of thank you. Thank you for doing something big and bold and speaking truth to power in a way that garners attention. Thank you for acknowledging this is not normal and we are in unprecedented times. Because not only do people need to pay attention, they need to get involved. And of course, even those were general reactions to the speech as a whole, with many individual clips and moments going viral, people attaching themselves to that. You know, kind of like I said yesterday, as it was still going on, it's going to be very interesting to see if this ends up being a blip or this ends up being a spark. Because that is something that the Democrats need. Their approval ratings have been in the dumpster, with the main feelings we've seen from Democrats and independents being it's not good enough to just not be the other guy.
Right.
Do something. And so we'll have to wait to see, is the something from Cory Booker, the something we've seen from AOC and Bernie, does it turn into more and more? But then
That's exactly it. It's not enough for Democrats to not be conservatives for it to be good enough. And this is why I thought it was a red flag when I saw like anyone in the political sphere talk about how much they loved Biden, because it's like, okay. Also, to the chatter said, when conservatives do good trouble, remember to keep the same energy because democracy. Yeah, name a time. Name a time. Go ahead. Give me one example of when conservatives had good trouble in the last 10 years. Go ahead. Tell me when. When did they make good trouble in the last 10 years? Go. I'll give you a second. Figure it out. Go ahead. Give me one example. Give me one example so I can shut it down, because there ain't no way. Okay, name one time. Nothing good about Republican policy. Nothing good about conservative politics. Okay? Trump throwing paper towels. Girl, stop. Stop, girl. Stop. That was, wow. Taking us back. Okay? All of this to say, I understand why everybody feels like politics is their whole life. But just a reminder, it's literally not. It's just a part of it. You as an individual exists outside of these constructs. You as a citizen, man, we are all subject to the bullshit of politics. But I just want to remind you, when you go home, you don't have to take it with you. You deserve to go home and not have to always think of yourself through the lens of these politics. This bubble wants to always remind you that you are worthless unless we legally say you aren't. This political bubble is always trying to pit neighbor against neighbor, because that's what politics is. As much as they say like we're supposed to be getting along, then let that show through policy. Let that show through campaigns. It has not been shown since day one, because politics was never about people. It was always about power. And look at the people who aim to gain that power. And this is why we wonder, does power corrupt? Can Cory Booker keep getting or gaining power without being corrupt? Will he run in 2028? Is this whole political performance a part of his campaign in 2028? I don't know. But will Cory Booker be able to survive the bullshit of politics once he's in that White House, if he runs? But you're not a politician. You're a person. Okay, and I know politicians are people, but they're taking on a different kind of role in society. So when you go home, I just want you to be able to say, I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna take this weight off my shoulders, because I don't have to take it home with me. Even though we are always impacted. My family and I, my partner and I, we sit at home. We have those very intimate, scary conversations over money, over politics, over our bodies, over medicine. We are like any other person on this planet. We just want to make sure that we are not allowing those bubbles to ruin our marriage, ruin our life, or take away our hope. Because you can let stress enter your life to such a degree that you will get divorced over it. You will ruin your friendships over it. You will ruin your life over it. I'm not talking about the difference of values. It's okay to stop being friends with people that you think are genuinely bad people. I'm talking about the stress. I'm talking about the psychological stress of letting things eat you up inside because of what somebody is doing over there. I need you I don't need you to do anything. If you would like to, you can get to a point where you're allowed to be stressed. You're allowed to cry. You're also allowed to not let it ruin your life or kill you or tell you that suicide is the only answer. Because when I was involved in politics, it felt like killing myself was the best solution because the world was so fucked up. The world might be so fucked up, but you don't have to kill yourself over it. Your life is not politics. Your life is just impacted by politics. Okay? Now, with that said, I had another topic planned for tomorrow, but we moved through this stream so fast. I'm curious if I should bring it up now, but I think not. I think my intuition is telling me that this should be a short and sweet stream. I'm on a good momentum with this, girls, where I come in, I do stream, I get off, I record Love is Blind, I edit, I post videos. I've been doing photo shoots on OF, posting every day. Like, I feel like I'm on a good little neurodivergent schedule right now. God knows how long that will last. Okay, I'm also doing another 30-day challenge, which I will have a podcast out about it in a couple weeks. I'm finishing up that challenge, which is pretty cool. So, you know, I think I'm going to keep that schedule. I think I'm going to come in, make banger streams that people can watch in one sitting if they want to. And if the mood calls for it, we'll do a 9-hour stream. But I don't think it calls for it today. Like, I think we did it today. I think we did what we wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Exciting stuff, announcements. I can't quite announce it in details just yet, but we're having a panel with some girlies and an extra guest we haven't had before show up. I'm excited to announce that officially in just a bit here. That's coming up. Very exciting stuff on the Discord. We have stuff coming up. We have Smash on the Switch. Sunday, April 6th. So if you have a Switch and you're 18 plus, you want to join the Patreon, you can. We're finishing up Crash Course, last 3 episodes. Professionally Taught Yoga, April 13th. Holy Mountain by Alejandro Jodorowsky, one of my favorite movies. The movie I say, like, help me pop into that 4 space. You know, very cool movie, very interesting artist, very controversial, but very, very interesting. You know, I think his movies are very interesting. It's controversial, but it's interesting. Everything Everywhere All at Once, discussion and watch party April 20th, and Discord 101, great for new people. Come join us. It'll be great. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and leave you. Yeah. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down in the sections below. Like the stream, share it with somebody who might relate, but also remember, you disagreeing with me is always allowed. Okay, you writing comments about how I'm a Jew when I'm not even a Jew, but even if I was, the anti-Semitism isn't going to happen here. Those are the comments that are going to get blocked. I blocked that comment this morning. Somebody showed up on my comment section, was like, of course a Jew is telling people to get surgery. Yeah, see, I'm going to block those people. But I'm not going to block you if you simply disagree with like content or like how I express myself. Okay. Mabel, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much. Ciao. Thank you so much. All right. Chet says, we're not going to lie, we need a 24-hour stream. Hey, maybe for my birthday. My birthday's next month. I'll be 36. Maybe for my birthday, we'll do like a very long birthday stream. It'll be fun. Okay, it'll be great. All right, girls, we did it. I'll see you tomorrow. And it will be fabulous. Okay? See you tomorrow. Like the stream before you go, please. Thank you. We'll listen to Elvin on the way out. Here's some Elvin. Dun dun. All right. See you tomorrow.